Hey guys, welcome to another tutorial video. Today I'm taking a look at all my Mobius camera mounts, but unlike other tutorials where I just show you the steps to get there, at the end of this video I'll show you how you can get a copy of this very mount yourself, so stay tuned. If you followed my channel, if you've seen any of my gameplay video, you'll notice that I use a forward facing and a rear facing camera. The forward facing camera is a zoom camera, a muzzle camera, and that has a very tight zooming 25mm lens on it. The rear facing is a regular wide angle lens that comes standard in the Mobius camera. If you're not familiar with the Mobius cameras, they're little HD cameras. They're really compact. They're about the size of a matchbox. They shoot in full 1080p HD 30 frames per second or 720/60 depending on what you're going for. The quality is really great. In my opinion, it's better than the GoPro, and the whole thing's about $100 with about a 8GB SD card, but I'd recommend a 16 for a day's full of footage. They're really great cameras and they're perfect for using as a gun camera because they're small, they take up minimal space. But the problem is they're not really designed to be gun cameras. They seem to be really mostly focused for RC airplanes. To make it work on the gun, I had to make up my own mount, which consisted of an old ACOG mount, some L brackets, some just strips of metal to get everything nice and cohesive. And I had to do a lot of dremeling and flattening of screw tops. It took me a lot of time, like probably maybe 20 hours total. What I've recently done is I've invested in a 3D printer. If you don't know what a 3D printer is, it's similar to a printer except it prints in layers. So it'll print a small layer of the object, and then it'll go on and add top layers over the top. And that eventually makes a form. Once you take away all the supports, you get a final shape. So the first project I decided to do when I got the handle on the printer was to redesign my mount. Now, there's not too much wrong with this mount, but it's a one-off and it's a little heavy for something that's hanging all the way in the front of your gun. You want it as light as possible. That's my mentality and everything, keep it light. So making it out of durable ABS plastic was a much better option. The nice thing about designing it to be a 3D printed object is that I can not only get it on my gun and make the various mounts that I need for my various needs, but I could also put this product out publicly and you could get a copy yourself. And I'll go over those details at the end of the video, so stay tuned. So the first mount I decided to redesign was the original mount I had, this metal L side-by-side mount. And here it is in ABS. It's basically the same dimensions and everything, but it is made out of ABS, so it's one solid piece. It's very sturdy and it's very light, which of course is nice when you have something hanging out on the front of your gun. But since I had the opportunity to redesign the whole thing, I've made some improvements to the Mobius case itself. First of all, it's one piece, so there's no parts to break. It's very solid. Next thing was I added a SD card retention notch over here, I guess. What happens with these SD cards is they're in there just through the opening on the back, and if they're bumped against anything, they could pop right out. I've had it happen to me, and once you lose that SD card, especially outdoors, very slim chance you'll ever find it. The next thing I added was on a self-facing camera. There's a light out back that tells you you're recording, which is great for the zoom camera because you can see and make sure you're recording when you're looking out. But on the selfie camera, all that does is give you a position away in the dark environment. So I've added a little extension over here that blocks the light, so now when you're pointing the camera at someone, there's nothing to give away your position. But you could actually see it reflecting off the little wall, and that actually gives you feedback from the first person perspective. So kind of a two-way improvement on that in that sense. So the way this mount goes on the gun is very simple. It's a two-piece construction. You have your main body here with the little L bracket going down here, and down below is a triangulated sort of piece that locks into it. Now if you have the perfect length screw, which you could either Dremel yourself or buy at the right size, you could mount with the nut on the inside and the bolt coming in from the bottom, as I have here. So you basically drop it in through the bottom, put the bolt on the inside and screw it down to the rail, and it's on there rock solid. It's not going anywhere. You'll probably break your cameras before you break the mount. If you have a bolt that's longer than the distance between the openings, you could drop it in from the top and then put the nut on the bottom, and it'll protrude a little bit out. So I added both options just to accommodate whatever kind of hardware you have to mount the thing to the rail. One important thing to know is the type of bolt you're using. You want to use one with the kind of rounded head on top and flat on the bottom, instead of the one with the flat head on top and the pointy end on the bottom, because the pointy one will try to drive itself into the opening and split the whole piece and possibly crack it and break it, where the one with the flat underside will act more as a washer and just push on the whole thing and tighten the construction together. So the way I have my cameras mounted here, you might think, why not put them top and bottom? Well, that is a good option, and I do have that option here as well. But this is more for someone who likes to do the clamp the rail. I have a flashlight on top, so I tend to reach over the front of the cameras when they go for it. So if I had the camera down here, as I do on this mount, I tend to block it when I switch to my weak shoulder, which doesn't happen much and you could get away with it, but for my purposes I like to have it offset. Also, as it sits a little wider, gives you a better angle on the gun and on the whole action behind you. So for those purposes I like it better mounted this way. But if you're someone who uses a vertical grip, or you just hold the gun under the rail, that's not an issue for you. You can get this mount, which is an over and under with a zoom camera on top and a self-facing camera on the bottom, and that works great. I'll use it for stuff like this long gun, or if I use a sniper rifle or something, or if it's a gun maybe like a P90 where I'm not going to do any kind of weird grips, so it would work for something like that, or even the pistol. On a gun like this where I don't have a rail, I added a barrel clamp on here in the front, and then the mount works just as well because that adds a rail basically anywhere you want. So there's that option, the over and under. And then if you want to go real minimal and have no kind of horizontal space taken up, I have two mounts here, mounted forward and back of each other. And these you can move any way you want. You can put one on this side, one on this side, whatever you want. They are kind of a mirrored version of each other. So it depends on what you need. Here with the zoom camera and the selfie camera here, and as you can see, this is smaller than a typical flashlight. It's a very small footprint, and it makes the gun only slightly wide. Actually, it's as wide as a charging handle. So as far as moving through space, this does not really add any bulk to your gun. And both the camera and the mount are very light. So this is a very light setup. You could then flip this to this side, whatever you want. That's a few options for a few ways to mount the cameras for my needs right now. I might later add a mount that goes on top of the rail that lines up right with the iron sights. It could look like a red dot camera, stuff like that, or a scope mount camera that's curved, a zip tie camera, stuff like that. And I'll add it to my Shapeways store as I go. But these are the three mounts that I can think of that I need in the near future. So I've already created them, and I can just swap out the camera from one to the next. And removing the camera is pretty simple. I've made the little knobs that retain it pretty tall just so it doesn't fall out, and that makes it a little tough to take out sometimes. Usually you could push it out, but if not, just slide a flathead screwdriver underneath, give it a slight twist, push the camera forward just a little bit so it clears the knobs, and then just pull it out. And it's not going to do any damage to your camera or any damage to the mount. And of course reverse the process to put it in. Now that you've seen how the mounts work, how the cameras fit in them, how they go in the gun, hopefully you're interested. So now you can get a copy yourself. Unlike most of my tutorials where I just show you my process and then leave you kind of on your own, in this one you could actually head over to my Shapeways store and pick up a copy yourself. If you don't know what Shapeways is, it's kind of like the app store for physical objects. Basically I design and upload my model on there, and then Shapeways will print it, ship it, deal with all the transaction stuff so it's safe, secure. And you in return can support me, support the channel, and get something cool for yourself. So head over to the store, check it out. Hopefully you'll find something there you need. I'm going to be uploading other airsoft related projects on there. The nice thing about doing it on a small scale is I can do very niche projects that a big manufacturer might not deal with because there's not a lot of demand for it. But since I'm an airsofter and I have airsoft problems, I could solve them with these little airsoft solutions. Hopefully you found this tutorial useful, either whether you're thinking of getting a 3D printer or you're looking for a Mobius mount solution. Stay tuned, I'll have more cool projects going on. Check out the store, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. So the first mount I worked on is basically replicating what I had done with